The big story of the day is what is going on with the government. So let's talk straight to Reform UK MP Robert Jenrick.
I'll be worth waiting on.
Yes, Robert, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Astonishing weekend in politics.
Good morning.
How long has Keir Starmer got? Does he have to go? And will it be today?
Well, look, this is a government that is collapsing before our very eyes. The government is in open revolt against the Prime Minister, who now has no authority whatsoever. And what are people thinking? Whilst they're watching this government turning in on itself so quickly, just like the last Conservative government did, people are worried about their bills, their energy prices, jobs going, immigration continuing to be out of control, crime, town centres being hollowed out, all the challenges that the country faces. And yet this government is just focused in on itself, on a failed Prime Minister who's waiting to be shown the exit. We've got to move forward beyond this, because the public just deserves something so much better than having government after government collapse into chaos before their very eyes.
Robert, what happens next? That's the question. I mean, I think everyone would agree that Keir Starmer is a dead man walking and it is only a matter of time. But who takes his place?
Well, look, who knows? Starmer looks like he's going to be on the way out. We're going to have a messy, chaotic Labour leadership contest that's going to waste precious time when the country faces all of these challenges. And then no doubt he'll be replaced by somebody who is just as inept, just as out of touch as he was, whether that's Angela Rayner or Wes Streeting. Who knows? Look, it's not for me to speculate. All I can say is that I've just spent the weekend in my constituency in Newark, and the public are not talking about Peter Mandelson. They knew he was a bad man and that he shouldn't have been made our premier ambassador in Washington. They just want a government that's going to grip the country's challenges. They're sick of the country being in decline like it is at the moment, and they want to move forward and actually get this country back onto its feet again with good jobs, with bills coming down, with immigration finally being tackled. And that is why Reform, the party that I've joined, has now got to focus on how do we prepare for government, because this could well lead to an early general election. And so Nigel, later today in Birmingham, is going to be setting out how are we going to start selecting candidates for the general election? Good, talented people of stature and integrity. How are we going to build the top team so that if we get into government, we can actually tackle these big challenges, get those good jobs, get the economy going again, finally stop the small boats, no messing around? And how can we have detailed, credible, comprehensive plans so that the public can have faith in us that it's not going to be just the same failure as this government has been, and frankly, the last Conservative government was as well.
So, Robert, are we going to hear details of who Reform's cabinet are going to be this afternoon? Because you are up for Chancellor, but so will Zia Youssef at one point.
Well, you're going to have to wait and see. Nigel's going to do a speech in Birmingham, and he's going to set out the next steps, including, most importantly, that we're going to make a big offer to the country to come and be a Reform candidate. Because yes, it's important to have some people with experience, some people like myself who chose to leave the old political parties and to join something new and exciting and fresh. But actually, you know what? We really want people who are business people, tradesmen, farmers, veterans, teachers, doctors, people who've run prisons well or great hospitals, really good head teachers. We want people from outside of politics, frankly, who've been shunned by the two old failed political parties, to come forward, stand for reform and help us to build a very different political party at the next general election, which may not now be in 2029, because you can easily see a general election happening next year now or even sooner, as this failed Starmer administration tips into one in Angela Rayner or whoever it might be, and they themselves collapse into failure very soon. So that's going to be the primary task, but Nigel is going to be setting out who are his top team in the coming days.
But Robert, haven't you to be careful who you slag off in the next months and years, as it could be? These may be the old failed parties, but a lot of people will look at Reform and say, you have a good chance, but you mightn't be winners if you don't do a deal, particularly with the Conservatives.
Well, look, I watched the last Conservative government collapse into chaos, just like this one did, under Labour, and it was messy, And the people who missed out were the British public, because months and months were wasted talking about Partygate, Boris Johnson's behaviour, Liz Truss's failures, you name it. And I don't want to see that happen again. That's ultimately why I resigned from Rishi Sunak's cabinet and why I chose a few weeks ago to leave the Conservative Party and join Reform. I've seen Conservative governments fail. I've seen this Labour government fail. They always turn in on themselves, make it about themselves and their own personalities. The British public deserves something better, and that is what we're setting out to build now with Reform, and we're going to be focusing on. So at pace, Nigel, myself, the other people in Reform are going to be setting out how are we going to prepare for government so that we can be something that is different and the British public can have more faith in us than, frankly, the entire political class that we've experienced over the course of the last 10 or 20 years that has left the country where it is right now, with poor living standards, the NHS waiting lists too high, the potholes in the roads, immigration out of control, the small boat scandal with the hotels and everything continuing to spiral out of control. The public deserves so much better than what they've had in recent years, and that is why we in Reform have to seize this moment and spend the months ahead wisely creating proper plans for government.
Every time your phone connects to public Wi-Fi, anyone nearby could snoop on what you're doing. Hackers can steal your information, passwords, photos, and bank details in just seconds. ExpressVPN encrypts your connection, making it virtually impossible for hackers to access your personal information. ExpressVPN is so easy to use. With just one click of a button, you're protected. Streaming, banking, or shopping, you can switch between high-speed servers worldwide in seconds, and your connection never slows down. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code to get up to 75% off, plus 4 extra months free, all backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Protect your online life today.
Robert, the problem is you were part of a lot of that failure as well. You were in the Conservative government.
Yeah, I was, and I saw it up close myself. And it was a total mess, as you can remember, as all of your viewers can remember. And that's why I don't want to see this happen again. The country has been failed so badly now. You had all of those failed Conservative governments. You know, Theresa May collapsed. Boris's government collapsed. Liz Truss's short-lived government collapsed. Rishi Sunak's government collapsed. Worst ever election defeat. Then the Conservative Party in opposition fails to learn from its mistakes. All the while Starmer is our Prime Minister, getting nothing done, complete stasis, the country going down in the wrong direction, and now his government collapses as well. People at home watching this are sick of this failed political class, the system that has been letting this happen time and again. They are worried about their bills, their energy prices, their kids not being able to get on the housing ladder, the crime in their town centres. You know, this is what I'm hearing when I've just spent the weekend up in my constituency in Nottinghamshire. People want something different, and that is frankly why they're turning to Reform. You see that in the polls. I hear it in the pubs, in the factories, on the high street. When I talk to people, they're looking for something different. That's why I chose to step away from the Conservative Party, to join Reform, like millions of people are across the country. I've just been on a journey that the whole country is on at the moment, certainly people who share my values, and we've got to make sure that it actually lives up to the promise that it has. And that is why today in Birmingham, Nigel is going to be setting out the next phase for Reform, which is we're now going to be preparing for government. We're going to make the serious preparations in terms of candidates, top team and policies that are necessary so that not just channeling the anger and the frustration and disillusionment there is at the country with both Conservatives and Labour, but we're actually going to be able to fix this country and set it on a better path.
So, Robert, the fact that you are this afternoon appealing for more people to come forward to sort of like prepare Reform for government, I mean, how quickly can that happen? If there was a snap general election, would Reform be ready to govern next year, for example?
It would. I'm confident that it would be. But it's a big task, as you can imagine. We've now got to select those good candidates. Look, we've got almost 300,000 members. That's 3 times what the Conservative Party has. So there's clearly a lot of enthusiastic, determined people who want to fix the country and to be part of the mission that reform now has. But we've got to make sure that we choose people of real stature, integrity, something to offer to public life, and from all walks of life. Yeah, there'll need to be some people who are experienced, and I hope I can play a small part in that. But I also want to see people who had nothing to do with the whole Westminster system, and that in fact be the majority of the people who will serve in the shadow cabinet and ultimately in a cabinet under Nigel, if he's lucky enough to be our next Prime Minister. But there is a lot of work to be done, and you're going to be seeing in the weeks ahead the team coming together, the policies on immigration and crime and integration, but also on the economy and public services being set out.
OK, well, good luck with that work, Robert. We'll leave you time to go and do that today. Thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it. Robert Jenrick.
Thanks very much.
OK, let's get the thoughts of journalist and broadcaster Christo Fufas now. Christo, you were listening to Robert Jenrick there. What did you make of what he had to say?
Look, I like Robert Jenrick. I like reform. I think that they've been a good force for British politics, but I think fair play to you both for putting to him that it's difficult to listen to that, and I imagine a lot of people will be watching and listening to that thinking exactly what you both said to him, which was, well, a lot of the things that you are talking about, chaos, a government that was in disarray, scandals, U-turns, he was a part of that government, and so I'm ready to be, but I'm yet to be convinced that he's distanced himself enough from all of that, because it does, I think, to some people look a little bit like the very opportunism that he's complaining that Labour have. I don't know, am I being a bit unfair there?
I don't know. I mean, the thing is as well, I mean, we don't know what Nigel Farage, and GBNews will be covering it live as and when it happens this afternoon. We don't know what Nigel Farage is going to say today, but there's a lot of debate about the shadow cabinet that he's building up. And certainly the job of Chancellor. Robert Jenrick is meant to be in line for it, but Zia Youssef and or Robert Tice were both also in line for it. A lot of alpha males at the top of Reform UK at the moment. How can we be sure they don't descend into this infighting?
Yeah, well, exactly, and I don't want that. I just want... I'm sick of people wanting to be liked. I just want people who want to be right. That's what I want. I'm sick of U-turns. I want people to have a direction of travel. One of the biggest problems with Keir Starmer and this government is, and with previous governments, actually, the Conservative government under Boris Johnson as well, was a real lack of ideological direction. If you have an ideology, if you have a direction of travel, if you have an ism, Blairism, Thatcherism, then at least every decision comes from that, because you have a set of principles that you stick to. We haven't had a government of principle for a long time, and it was what I said in the last part I was here, this sort of reactionary government lurching from crisis to crisis, rather than saying, well, actually, you know what, this policy is right, it is the right thing for the UK. This is what we are doing. This is our agenda. We haven't had an agenda for ages. We've just had a series of U-turns and scandals and government that is reactionary rather than actually proactive and setting out a plan.
Interesting, and lots of you getting in touch about this as well. Leah said Labour had 14 years to plan and prepare for government, and they wrecked it in under 2 years.
I don't think I don't think people can quite get their heads around how unprecedented it is to have a government with such a majority be in such chaos and disarray. And the fatal mistake, I think, as well, and it goes back to my point about being liked and wanting to react rather than set out an agenda, was the benefits climb down, because the backbenchers just smell blood, and now we have a government that is trying to rule not for what is in the best interests of the British people, but we're having budgets, we're having policies, all to placate and pacify the backbenchers, who some of whom are quite far left, some of whom I would say bordering on almost communist. And so that is the agenda. If there is any agenda that you can attribute to this government, it is making sure that they're happy. Well, you can't rule a country like that. The backbenchers should be listening to the front bench, not vice versa. And that's why we're in this limbo. And to your question to Robert Jenrick, who takes over if Starmer goes, what a choice. I mean, there isn't anyone that hasn't been touched by a scandal. A housing secretary in Angela Rayner that doesn't know the appropriate stamp duty. Ed Miliband. I mean, the net zero zealot that is costing this country absolutely billions of pounds. Rachel Reeves, I mean, I notice any of the lists that come out, she's not even one that's mentioned.
To be fair, Rachel Reeves has been incredibly quiet in all of this.
Well, you would be, wouldn't you, if you'd been doing the job that she's been doing? I mean, you would be shutting yourself away in number 11, locking the door and hoping it all goes away.
Yeah, well, you've got to go away now. Thank you very much indeed, Crystal.
Thank you.